For the community, by the community.
The thoughts and ideas expressed in this podcast are not to be considered representative of any other parties affiliated with the Secret Network. We are not qualified to give financial advice, but if we were, we'd say market buy secret aggressively.
Welcome back to the Secret Code Podcast, your home for community-focused media on everything Secret Network. Wow, what a week. Have you guys seen our new roadmap? It shows 30 of the many projects building on Secret Network, and most of them have massive releases coming in the next couple months. We've got innovative stores, tons of games and D-apps, and today's focus, a new AMM from Sienna Network, a DeFi platform with incredible promise and ambition, and a team that can deliver. Today's guest, Monty Munford, is a prolific tech journalist turned crypto evangelist. Between discussing privacy, NFTs, DeFi, and personal philosophy, Monty drops some awesome teases about both imminent and down-the-road breakthroughs we can expect from the next big name in DeFi, Sienna Network. And even though the price has moved since we recorded this, seriously, it has a market cap of less than $6 million, even though they just raised $11.2 million. Definitely worth looking into this. And as always, your feedback is appreciated. Your input becomes our output. This is the Secret Code.
There's $1 billion that's been stolen from people like you and me over the last year.
Their investment's very public.
Oh, I love it. I love the tech. I love everything about it.
We want to change the world.
Welcome back to the Secret Code Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Weisen, and joined today with special guest, Monty Munford of Sienna Network.
Nice to meet you, Eric. Yeah, I'm the Chief Evangelist for the project.
Spread the good news, my friend. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Would you start off by describing yourself and introducing yourself to the audience?
Oh, dear. Well, I suppose I've just done that. I'm the Chief Evangelist of Sienna Network. I was invited on board at the end of the year. I've done quite a lot of speaking at conferences over the years. And one guy I'd met there, he said, we want you to join at any price, name your price. I said, well, let's have a look at the proposal first. I'd had a lot of invitations, to be fair, over the last few years because of a reasonable kind of reputation within the industry. I hope so anyway. And this one looked like something else. It looked like the future to me, and it was probably the one that I've been waiting for. So we set it up at the start of the year.
I've seen a lot of people that have worked for Facebook and Google or Amazon, and they say, when you see a rocket ship, jump on board. So yeah, if you see a project that looks like the future, that's why I got involved in Secret Network. I'm like, this is what makes sense. This is where the future has to go. And so I'm just dove all in because why not be a part of it? You see a rocket ship, jump on board. A little bit more about you personally. What are a couple traits that you think uniquely describe you? Some non-generic traits that maybe you'd like described to your great-great-grandchildren as a way to connect to you.
I've just read this book, called The Molecule of More. And I think for all my life, I've been waiting to find this book that defines me because I've never quite understood why I take risks, so I do stupid things. And The Molecule of More just nails me. There are people in life where the molecule of more is basically dopamine. And using the phrase adrenaline junkie is a little bit simplistic. It's not as easy as that. But there are some people that, have access to dopamine and some who don't. And that's why people strive for more. That's why entrepreneurs do more things. That's why that rocket ship you just spoke about, people jump on it, is because they want to do more. It doesn't mean so much that you'll probably have a peaceful life, but you'll definitely do a lot of things. So in my life, I've been a cleaner, a betting shop manager in sinking states in London, a motorcycle dispatch rider or courier in London for 10 winters. I've been a Bollywood film star. I've been a failure. I've been a success. I have a friend of mine that says you don't deserve to live unless you've used up all your organs. And I think he was describing a friend of his who died at 64 in a room full of women. But I was thinking about that and thinking that's probably about it, really. If you can exhaust your heart and exhaust your brain and your eyes and your lungs and your liver and everything, that's a pretty good life. That's a life that's pretty well led. So that's pretty much my philosophy, really. I'm defined by my chemistry, but characterized by my actions.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
That wasn't bad, was it? I might try and remember that one.
I'll have a recording for you. I think I'm starting to go on that track. I'm 27, but I've had a lot of very unique and different experiences, lives, and jobs.
Good man. Well, we're probably built from the same molecule, and let's have a beer one of these days.
Absolutely. I went from working for a law firm for a couple of years to going and interviewing at Papa John's. They're like, why do you want to work for us? Like, you just got your degree and you work for a law firm. I'm like, I fucking love your pizza.
Do the things. That was the reason I was a betting shop manager, because I used to like to gamble. The reason I was a motorcycle dispatch rider was because I like to drive motorbikes. So it's sort of simple. Just do what you like.
So what problem are you guys trying to solve with Sienna, and how urgent do you think it is?
Well, I think the problem, as most of your listeners will probably know, is front running. So, I mean, the way that I tried to describe it to my mates, or, you know, the man in the pub, or the man on the street, or the woman in the pub, or the woman in the street, is that if I was to send you £100 or $100 or whatever to your bank account, and it went through perfectly fine, it was great, but you could see every transaction that I had ever made in my 25 years banking with a major high street bank, and the other person can see that the other person's transaction, that's ridiculous. That's the same as me sending you an email and you have an access to all of my emails ever, you know. So that means that everything's visible, everything's non-private, and means that dodgy actors can front run your trades, pay a higher gas fee because it's sort of visible what you're doing. And then front running is the bane of the industry. It's a kind of, the big guy bullies the small guy, or the big girl bullies the small girl. You know what I mean? It's not fair, and it's a result of a new technology. You know, I come from the early days of the web in the late 90s, where lots of things didn't work, and lots of things in their original iteration were developed incorrectly, and then they were improved, and you can see now, 20 years later, that we have an infected internet, but that's a different story. But we have a working internet where most of the problems 20 years ago have been resolved. I'm saying that, you know, I think I interviewed Sir Tim Berners-Lee for the We Are Developers conference about 2 months ago, talking to him about privacy and what he thought about that, you know, what's going on with privacy and the web. Well, he was the inventor of the World Wide Web, obviously. And the whole idea was, you know, it was supposed to be a great new dawn and a private network, and obviously it's gone a bit wrong. So he's set up Solid as something to kind of, you know, disrupt that or change that. So I think front running, or any form of snooping, I suppose, on what you're doing, or whenever you're transacting something and someone can see what you're doing, that is what we're trying to solve.
When did you get into cryptocurrency?
Strangely enough, it was an island just off Dublin called Lambay Island. We were kind of advisors for this island. It was a member of the Barings Group that went bust a few years ago, I think through trading in Singapore. So they were kind of, you know, gradually making their way up to change their business. And there was a guy there and just started to describe this to me. And it was like, right, okay, this is the shit that I used to hear about 5 years ago when I worked for a games company, which I thought was ridiculous, and coins and games and bitcoins and what. But then when we started talking and drinking some wine and a nice view of the sea, the nature of decentralization, anything that's centralized in my mind has never worked. You know, a centralized financial system, it means I don't know about you, I'm probably a bit older than you, but, you know, when I was a kid, I wasn't taught any financial education. I was taught history and Latin, you know, and geography and biology, but I wasn't taught how to manage my money, and I was useless with money. So I didn't know. I just accepted that a centralized banking system was the one that was good and was fine. You know, it was only after, you know, years and years of being charged for taking money when I was abroad, or being charged overdraft fees or anything like that, with no advice from the bank at all. I was happy to take my money month after month, year after year. And I finally got a bit savvy to it and just thought, do you know what, this is ridiculous. My mantra was, you know, there's always too much month left at the end of the money. You know what I mean? And then when I saw, you know, Bitcoin, and it's never been hacked. That's interesting, because I thought it was hacked all the time. Then I realised it was exchanges. And then I just gradually kind of done 250 global events as an MC or a speaker or a moderator or a panelist. You know what I mean? The invitations that were coming in were increasingly coming in via, you know, blockchain conferences or crypto conferences. So, you know, you go with the flow, right? You take it where it is. So, you know, I started to educate myself about it. And I thought it was really, really easy to understand once you got your head around it. And then as a journalist at that time for kind of Forbes and The Economist and the BBC and The Telegraph and MIT Tech Review and Wired, I always used to get a huge amount of press releases. But I couldn't believe how quickly the infrastructure was forming. How what I thought was something very easy was actually extraordinarily complicated. And it wasn't really like building a second internet, but it was building an ecosystem that was extraordinary in the speed that it was being done. So, catch a wave, catch a fire. I thought I had to be part of it. And so I got in.
It went from 13 years ago being built in the dark by a couple people to literally being a legal currency for an entire nation as of next week. Like it's insane how fast it's developed. And I know a lot of times it takes time for people to go from like, oh, well, it's not tangible, I can't hold it, it's not real, to finally understanding that neither is the dollar, and at least 96% of it isn't tangible, like you can't feel it, but learning that you can store value and transfer value in this new internet, and that the previous internet was built on false game theory and inappropriate incentive networks.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I actually got into. I did a road trip round to Ireland last week. I live in Brighton, south of London, 50 miles by the sea, and I did a road trip to Ireland. And I was in a sauna near Dublin, and there was a guy in there. It was a trader. He was bullying this woman. He had his girlfriend there, and he was bullying this woman, saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." And I just thought I'd kind of mix it up a bit. I said, "Well, you should have put all your money in the Bitcoin, mate, shouldn't you?" Just to kind of, I'm a bit of a troublemaker in that respect. I wasn't very happy about it because, he's a bully, and bullies don't like being bullied, right? But then this typical thing, he goes, "Oh, it hasn't got any value." I said, "Well, what would you say? It's a Ponzi scheme." I said, "Well, what do you think banking is if it isn't the Ponzi scheme?" He goes, "Oh, well, I think the price should be about $5,000 or $10,000. I said, "You just said it was worth nothing." You know what I mean? Don't you understand how stupid you sound?
Bitcoin's the Ponzi scheme, but the stock market's the one that, we keep printing money and pouring it into it to make sure it doesn't go down. But Bitcoin's the Ponzi scheme.
It's just, I mean, there's people all over the place that just think it's really annoying now because it's like, oh, it's for drug dealers and it's for arms dealers and for bad people. I mean, what's the banking system? Just because there's something that you can do something with doesn't mean that only bad people do it.
Centralized banks paid $330 billion in fines over the last 5 years, and it's still been profitable for them. But no, tell me about how crypto is for money laundering.
I mean, we know what we're talking about, right? I would imagine we might be ahead of the game, right?
Yeah. How did you and the Sienna team learn about Secret Network, and what stood out about it to you?
Well, I think that was one of the questions I was going to struggle with, really, is because one of the kind of problems where everybody is dispersed around the planet. We're meeting. I'm actually at the moment chilling out at a place called Lake Balaton in Hungary. I went to the president of Slovakia's daughter's wedding on Saturday. I drove all the way from London in a little car, and then I thought I could do some, R&R time, chilling out, which is what I'm doing. And one of the things was, that's one of the questions that I was going to ask them, when I met them, because we have a call once a week, and we've been very successful and we've got an amazing team. So I think basically, we like to keep names to ourselves at the moment. I'm the one that's going to take all the flack. But our kind of like big chief man is just a massive fan of Tor's. I haven't met Tor yet. We've just had a chat actually on Telegram. He seems like a nice guy. And I think the way they learned about it is because they were interested in the subject anyway. There are a number of blockchains that they could have built Sienna on. And in their opinion, that Secret Network was the best one.
Good. I'd love to hear it. Yeah, I agree, and we're glad to have you guys on. And yeah, Tor's a brilliant dude and an excellent speaker.
There was a Forbes writer actually was reaching out, who knows about privacy and DeFi, and then some guy said like, Tor and Monty know the most about DeFi, and the guy knows so much more than me. It's ridiculous. So I'm the face.
So speaking of Forbes, you guys just this morning got listed on a new Forbes article, and I know you used to work for them, but it's really cool seeing you guys get this big marketing, and I like that you guys are making that push. Do you want to talk about that Forbes article at all?
Well, no, it's amazing, actually. I worked for Forbes for 4 years, kind of gave up tech journalism about a couple of years ago. So this was nothing to do with my connections with Forbes at all, and was nothing even as the kind of chief evangelist that I set out to do. The guy reached out to us. He knows a friend of mine, Sebastian Makowski, who I've kind of, had a beer with in Berlin. I said he was writing a privacy DeFi article. Would we like to be involved? We told him a couple of things, and it was published today. So we're absolutely delighted, really delighted. We've got some pretty big landmarks coming ahead, and it's always good to have another masthead on the front of the website. We've been on TechCrunch, Yahoo Finance, CoinMarket already. The TechCrunch story was a very good, very, very good for us. And, this is just the start of many more things to come, we hope. We're delighted about it. I mean, I've got a pretty strong personal social footprint. We're in all of the groups on Telegram and everything like that. So, yeah, it's great news. It's really, really good news. I think we were looking to raise between $500,000 and $700,000 when we started all this off in December. And we raised $11.2 million, right? I think Secret raised 11.5. So, we caught a sweet spot. I think a bit of it was a crypto summer, absolutely. But you just know when something, right? When it's a sweet spot, Eric, right? You just know, right? As we said earlier.
Absolutely. So let's dive into Sienna a little bit. What's the significance of the name Sienna?
Interesting. Sienna with two N's, right? But Sienna in Italy was basically the home of decryption and encryption. So what used to happen, I can't remember what century it was, I think it was probably the 14th or the 15th century, the Knights Templar, who were part of the Crusades, were kind of probably the world's first bankers, when it came to transactions. So they had a network of banks. The problem was, at the time, that if people were going from Siena, which is a major trading post, to Venice, obviously, or to Rome, or, it was basically a hub, as much as London is a hub for flights, people were being robbed. Because they knew that people were on this road from Venice to Siena. So what they did with Knights Templar was that they would just be given some numbers and some letters that they would secrete amongst themselves. No one could find them. And then when they got to the other end, without carrying any goods, they would use this number, then they would be compensated. So, Sienna Network is basically a network of encryption where it all began. And we hope we're taking it into the future.
So who's building it? Can you talk a little bit about the team? I know you mentioned keeping their names private.
The team themselves are amazing. There's people from traditional finance. There's a coding genius. There's someone in there that just sold their crypto company for, if I told you the number, you know who it was. We've got another guy who's, knows this stuff back to front. We've got someone who's written about it. We've got an amazing community manager. I don't think I've ever laughed so much with a team of people on, weekly phone calls. You know what I mean? It's just so funny. Everyone is smart. I've worked for some great companies. You know what I mean? I've worked for a games company. I've worked for another games company. I've worked for the company that produced the first, video streaming of the Big Brother show, years ago, 20 years ago. And we've all liked to party and all that stuff. And everyone has been smart. But this is the smartest group I've been part of. It's absolutely a privilege to... I'm probably the most stupid one out of all of them.
Yeah, I love getting involved in Secret Network and whatnot because I grew up obviously being one of the smartest kids around or whatnot. And now I'm going to the table and I feel like I might be one of the stupidest ones at the table. And I love surrounding myself with people smarter than me. That's the only way you can learn.
It's the only way you learn, right? It's a little bit like that book, like I said, The Molecule of More. If you want to be a big fish in a small pond, you stay in the pond, If you want to be a small fish in a big pond, then you have to get out there and swim, And I think that's what all of us in our team, I'd imagine you're a very similar person. You've got to challenge yourself and you've got to reach out. You've got to see, I have learned so much.
Awesome. For the AMM being built by Sienna, what are some cool features you guys are going to have? And then beyond the AMM, what other platforms and features are you guys going to have when you release soon?
Yeah, well, our AMM is a balance principal market maker, obviously. And instead of running an order book with just bids and asks, which have to match delayed trades to make them expensive to execute, what we have is SiennaSwap, which requires liquidity provider to deposit both tokens from a given pair. I mean, there's a great big mathematical equation for it. But SiennaSwap, there's a de facto, I think the de facto standard price of DEXs is 0.3%. But for us, it will be 0.28% for liquidity providers and 0.02% automatically converted into Sienna tokens. So that means that the more people that use SiennaSwap, the more the Sienna governance token will appreciate in value. And it also means we're not taking any commission on the trades.
That is so beautiful to hear. I'm a committee lead for the Secret Swap Committee, and I have been actively pushing for a buyback. We've been trying to go for 0.05%. You guys are doing 0.02%, but something that literally gives explicit value to the token. I'm also a holder of the Sienna token, so I love to hear it, and I support literally everything built in the ecosystem. Like, it's not supposed to be competition. We're all supposed to work together as we develop Secret Network. We're all going to grow and do fantastic. I'm not worried about that, but it's lovely to see explicit value and value capture mechanisms. I am actively pushing to still get that instated. We've struggled with quorum, but we recently lowered that on SiennaSwap.
Well, that's very, very, very kind of you to say so. And, obviously, we do want to work hand in hand with you. Competition is always good, but it's ours is a slightly different competition. It's like, what you just said about that with SiennaSwap, the piece that was written about us for Forbes today, you're happy to mention SiennaSwap in there as well as SiennaSwap. You know what I mean? It's just the more the merrier, we think, especially with you guys.
While they're both AMMs, they really will eventually, especially as more stuff gets built, they will be able to work together. I mean, maybe one of them become a DEX aggregator and literally use each other's swaps eventually. Like, there's so many endless possibilities, and we're all being built on the same ecosystem and working together. As far as liquidity provision, what's your guys' strategy to try to attract liquidity?
Well, I think we raised $11.2 million from 25 companies. Pockets are very deep. And, we'll decide this week when it's launched. We're working it out this week, and then I'll probably be able to give you some numbers next week. But, I think we're going to our existing investors because we don't really need anyone else at the moment. You know what I mean? Once that begins, I think it will be a self-perpetuating thing, and more people will kind of join the ride.
And I read that selected pairs, including Secret and Sienna, will have generous staking rewards. So very excited for that. All right, you ready for your game show question?
Oh, I can't wait, mate.
All right, we're diving into the viewing key. Let's look into the viewing key. The question isn't why do you have to make one on Secret Network? The question is why don't you everywhere else? What does the word Fartles mean? Fartles is currently a social media app being built on Secret Network. We actually just interviewed Ben Adams, the creator of it, and we'll be releasing that episode shortly after yours. So, what does the word Fartles mean? Is it A, uncovering something previously private?
Hang on. How do you spell it?
F-A-R-D-E-L-S.
F-A-R-D-E-L-S. Go on. Thank you.
So A, uncovering something previously private. B, joining together as a community. C, a bundle. Or D, important data.
You see, I'm looking at the etymology of fardel and thinking, is there Latin in there? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It almost feels like a made-up word. Fardel. I think usually these things, when you give it multiple choice, so, they scale you up A, B, C, D, and there's usually one in the middle. That's what you try to do. I'm going for C.
Do you remember which one that is?
No.
Well, great job, you're right. It is C, a bundle. Yeah, it was a working title that he intends to keep on with. It's from 14th century, at least this word's from 14th century English, but it stems from Arabic, farda, which means a bundle or a group.
So I should have known that because I speak Arabic, There's a word called fuddle, which means come and join us, So maybe it is the same, yeah. No, that's fudda. Siddiqui, fudda. Friend, come here. Yeah, so I got it right accidentally.
Perfect. I have a lot of coworkers that speak Arabic.
I love it. I'm absolutely going to learn that language more and more as I get older. It's just the greatest thing to do.
I'm disappointed that in America we're not taught more languages in school. Like, I'm now actively in meetings with tons of people in Israel, and they speak so many languages. And I speak English and Spanish pretty well, and I'm starting in school to learn, get exposure to Greek and Hebrew. But I feel like we're very limited by not speaking more languages and having access to different ways of thought.
It's not just education, though, mate. It's just because people speak English everywhere. I've travelled for 30 odd years, and I can speak German. I've just driven through Germany. I've been speaking German. I speak French pretty good. Spanish not so good. Arabic okay. But when you start a conversation, it's just that sometimes it's a lot easier just to speak English. It's difficult. It's not just the American school system. It's just the world. It's the language of the world.
I want to learn German so I can understand. I'm a big philosophy nerd. That's where I got my first degree in, and I'd love to read content in its original language. Will the code be open source? And how does Sienna plan to continue building their community?
Well, open source, yes. I mean, we have an amazing community manager, as I said earlier. She seems to have been born on Telegram. You know, I'm used to kind of wider channels like email. It took me a long, long time to start using WhatsApp. Probably cost me a fortune in missing possible opportunities because I thought it was the devil. So, you know, Signal, Telegram, I'm all right on Twitter. Actually, I'm quite good with Twitter. I've lost the buzz for it a little bit over the years because it's full of, you know, lynch mobs. But she is absolutely amazing. And you know, I said, listen, I find it really difficult to get into Telegram. Our community manager gets it. She can see through it. She knows what's a bot. She knows what isn't a bot. She knows who's good, who's bad. And she's amazing.
And is that Monica?
That is, yeah, Monica Leon. She's great. Hey, Monica. Told you I loved you. She's fantastic and brilliant to work with as well.
Awesome. Could you talk a little bit about SiennaLend?
SiennaLend is kind of a little bit down the track. We're focusing on SiennaSwap at the moment. We've had to wait for launch dates and all that stuff and stuff to be certified. It's like any kind of like product. It takes longer than you expect. So what we've done, we've been extremely transparent with our community, and we have a weekly development update. So no one's forgotten about, you know, people who bought the coins, we're just leaving them there or ghosting them or whatever. You know what I mean? We're very, very open with a weekly development update. So we're really, really close. We've come back from Certix, all is done. And again, this week is when we decide when the launch date will be, and then the kind of, you know, the PR and the marketing operation will go into it. SiennaSwap is extremely important to us. I don't think anyone's done it before, but we're just going one step at a time. It is absolutely, totally in our DNA and our future and our roadmap. But at the moment, we're trying to get SiennaSwap out there.
And I know there won't be a Fiat on-ramp in this version 1 of SiennaSwap, but I know that I and many of the members of the community are very much looking forward to that in the future, as we know that's in your guys' long-term vision. And is the expected release still within the next week or two?
Yes.
Awesome. Can't wait.
I'm putting my neck on the line there. I would say, yeah, by the end of next week, yeah.
So you guys are launching SiennaSwap initially. That's going to be your first platform.
Yeah.
Then I know Fiat on-ramp down the road, SiennaLend down the road. Beyond that, what other projects are on the roadmap that you guys are hoping to build eventually?
Well, that's a great question. And, you know, as I say, we have to be kind of careful that we don't, you know, overstretch when we're trying to do new things. You know what I mean? We launched on Polkastar and DAOmaker. We're about to, you know, announce other platforms. You know, there'll be kind of private centralized identities, KYT support for institutions. We've also got kind of Q1 next year, private tokenized assets such as stocks and bonds, and then something really super, super special and secret, beyond secret, that's going to change everything, in our opinion. That's the one thing I would be killed if I told you about it.
Right. Q1? Or is that just like an estimation?
Well, again, you know, you don't want to make promises. And then even though we're extremely, you know, open and transparent with our community, we don't want to make too many promises. You know what I mean? It's all being done. You know, it will all be communicated to everybody, but putting numbers and dates on them at the moment. The one thing about Sienna and Sienna Network, and the one reason that I joined, is that we, just like Tories at Secret, we're in this for the long haul, right? There's no pump and dump. There's nothing in this apart from the fact that, you know, even the code, the founders, you know what I mean? No one's taking any money out. We're in this for the long haul. So communication is clear. What we tell our community, the roadmap is fairly well established, but just to put dates on them all the time, you're a hostage to fortune. Do you know what I mean? It could be that SiennaSwap goes through the roof, and then SiennaLend, you know, goes even higher. Then SiennaLend 2, which is also part of the roadmap, and which could be really, really, really interesting. You know, there is a time when you have to prioritize what's going on. We thought we were going to raise 700k. We raised 11.2 million. And we have huge, huge expectations for the coin once SiennaSwap is launched. And because of that very roadmap, you know, we want to change the world. We believe that privacy DeFi is important. We think it's important for the little guy, as well as institutions, as well as anyone else that's new to this space. But I think I think Tor will probably agree with me here, Eric, is that there is a huge educative process here that needs to go on. If you think about the internet, lots of people say, oh, crypto's like the internet 20 years ago. No, it wasn't, really. Something new was happening, but retail didn't try and destroy it or crush it or ridicule it or do anything like that. They just thought it was a bit stupid and was of no threat to them. And guess what? As the years rolled by, it destroyed their businesses. If those people had said, we also want to destroy you now, which is what people are always saying with crypto, we're up against quite an enemy here. When you talk about privacy, everyone freaks out and thinks, oh, it's anonymous. You're back to drug dealers again. You're back to arms dealers again. Oh, you're trying to take this secret because you don't want to pay tax, and you're trying to keep this secret because you're not trying to do anyone over. I'm really happy to pay taxes. We'll pay taxes forever. We do believe in paying our share and doing our thing. There's no one doing anything dodgy here. There's a difference between doing things anonymously and privately. And at the moment, privacy is a problem for people that are making transactions. But it's a very difficult thing to educate media, educate institutions, educate investors who just feel, crypto, a bunch of drug dealers, arms dealers. We have a job to educate them. It's not going to be an easy one. Articles like the Forbes piece today are kind of evidence that people are starting to realise that this is quite a thing going on. And it's down to podcasts such as these. And I suppose my job as the evangelist of Sienna, and sometimes maybe the evangelist of DeFi, privacy, and DeFi, is to change people's minds. The ones that, the haters and the ones that who are not the molecule of more, they're just the molecule of less. They're the ones that don't see the future.
Absolutely. A lot of what I'm trying to do with this podcast is evangelize Secret Network and help with that education. And like just yesterday and a couple days ago, Ivan on Tech was talking about like on Twitter how NFTs need to be private and how they're not practical. And then Crypto Kobe, like all these big accounts and people that are super well known in crypto, was talking about how he wished he could move some of his NFTs without doxing all of his wallets. And I'm like, and you can't. Everything you're building and everything that you guys have made so much money on doesn't work long term. It cannot gain mass adoption. It's so impractical. And that's the reason, like, I don't think crypto is a bubble, but it's so reminiscent of the .com bubble because so many things are just attaching blockchain and they're not solving problems that either exist or they're not solving them in practical ways. And so everything's trying to be the new Ethereum, but Ethereum's not even going to be super practical long term because everything is doxed, because Mark Cuban buys an NFT and doxes his wallet, and then every time he buys something, everybody knows. And he can't even clean it unless he uses Secret Network.
And I read something today. It's like, it's easy to buy an NFT. It's nearly impossible to sell one.
Costs $400 in fees and everybody sees everything that happens. It's so dumb.
Well, listen, mate, I agree with you. I've made massive technological predictive mistakes over my lifetime, so don't listen to me. But you know what I mean? NFT to me, that does seem like a bubble to me.
I think the current NFT JPEGs being sold as art for hundreds of millions of dollars is absolutely a bubble, but NFTs, especially on Secret Network, absolutely are the future as they get incorporated with games, which we have several video games.
I get that bit. I mean, as I was saying to Sir Tim the other day, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, he just sold the first worldwide webcode NFT for 4.5 million. To me, that sounds like a bargain.
You mentioned expecting big things for the Sienna token. Obviously, I expect big things for Secret, CeFi, Sienna, everything being built in the network. I think it's going to explode. So about getting the token, I know you could get it on PancakeSwap. I've personally used Gate.io and Uniswap to get it. Are there any exchanges I'm missing out on?
We're keeping it DEX for the moment. I think Coinbase and those places, Binance, are probably, ultimately where we will be. But as I said, we're not in a rush to do it. You know what I mean? And we're trying to keep the supply low. And it's obviously there's a finite amount of coins that you can have, but we're really, really trying to do this properly.
And to explain the tokenomics to the audience, there's a maximum supply of 10 million tokens and a circulating supply of less than 600,000 tokens right now.
That is absolutely correct. You've done your homework, sir.
That is honestly insane. Right now, as we record this, the price of Sienna or wrapped Sienna is about $6.50, which makes the fully diluted market cap less than $4 million. And you guys literally just raised $11.2 million. That is certainly a A strange valuation ratio, one I doubt is likely to continue for long. And I've personally used Uniswap to buy wrapped Sienna.
Have you?
Yeah, and then used the Ethereum bridge on bridge.scrt.network to move it over from wrapped Sienna to actual Sienna so that I'm ready to liquidity provide or stake as soon as you guys launch. So
Obviously, I hope that was an extremely seamless experience for you. But how did you find it?
the bridge or the wrapped Sienna?
The kind of user journey. How was it?
It was awesome. I'm a huge fan of the ETH bridge. I'm actually working on a tutorial right now, which hopefully will be released before this episode for the secret Monero bridge.
We're a big fan of that. Big fan.
Yeah, it's not super user friendly right now, but it's because it's the first of its kind private at both ends bridge. Like, it is groundbreaking technology. I had Max Coda on the show, and it was great talking to him. And it's brilliant. I love it. And so I'm trying to make a tutorial so that it is more user friendly and people aren't too scared to use it, because we want to get the Monero community involved in DeFi. They're a brilliant community that shares our ethos, and give them access so that they can do more. They don't have to, but give them the opportunity.
Absolutely. No, well played, mate. Well played. I'm glad you've done that. That's great. Obviously, I'm not allowed to do it for another year.
Fair enough, but that's awesome. I have big expectations for Sienna and everything in this network. So it's an honor to have you on the show, and it's an honor to learn more about Sienna. And I can't wait to see it release and to see all the visions become reality over the next couple quarters.
Well, I think we'll both be dancing to the same tune, bro. I'm sure at some time we'll kind of click heels and go dancing off to the moon together. Do you know what I mean? We're a great fan. We're big fans of you guys, and I think that we are going to be able to help you a lot. And you're helping us already. So you know what I mean?
Thank you, sir.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
As you guys release, please reach out. We'd love to help do tutorials for people who are new to Sienna, how to use your guys' platform, how to bridge over and whatnot. Like, we'd love to, any way we can help advertise your product and make it easier for new users. We're out to help everybody in the ecosystem any way we can.
Well, you're doing a great job, and we really, really, really appreciate that kind of offer of support. Really do. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, sir. For people in the audience who might be new to Sienna or who want to get involved, how can they reach out to you, and how can they learn more about Sienna and connect with the community?
Well, I suppose Telegram, the Sienna group on Sienna Network's group on Telegram, it's got about 27,000 users. That's where we do a lot of our stuff. Twitter, Sienna.network, same as anything else. My name is Monty Munford, M-U-N, Monty Munford. So I have a fairly strong social footprint, on LinkedIn, the old ways. Monty Munford on Twitter. My DMs are open, etc. LinkedIn, any of that. I'm always open for business to intelligent people, but no time wasters. Thank you very much.
Thank you for deciphering the secret code. For the community, by the community. New episodes every Sunday. Secret Sunday. Dang, Secret Finance, the pragmatic DeFi, is really starting to take off. Sienna's launching, Duplex is coming out with a groundbreaking stablecoin-based yield protocol. All we're really missing is a secret stablecoin. I'd say wait until next Sunday for more info, but I just may get antsy. Stay tuned.